your music business crash course. So, welcome. If you are here, that means that you want to have a deeper understanding and basic knowledge of music business fundamentals. And that is what we are going to discuss today. And the very first topic on the agenda is going to be metadata. So, over the years, I've gotten quite a few questions, mainly regarding how to go about copywriting your project or your song, how to release them, which digital distributors should an artist use, marketing suggestions. So I've gotten all these questions, but I will say a topic that I don't get asked a lot about is the data. Meaning, how should you go about tagging your music, making sure that it is tagged with the correct information and the correct codes so that you can ensure that you are earning the maximum amount of royalties that are due to you. You will be surprised how many artists are missing out and songwriters are missing out on money simply because their music isn't tagged with the correct information. So if that is you in the past, don't freak out. You've come to the right place. That is what I am here for. So I know you're probably wondering, well, who are you and what do you do? Like, how do you know all of this information? Well, first off, this book behind me, this blue book, Donald Passman's All You Need to Know About the Music Industry. This is it. If there's ever a book, even if it's the only book that you need, hopefully it's not the only book, but if there ever was one book that you need to function in this industry, to understand it and understand it with confidence, it is this book right here. So if you do not have this book, I'm going to highly suggest, highly suggest that you purchase this book. Rent it, rent to own it. You can go to chegg.com and rent this book, or just buy it on Amazon. If you don't want to buy it, listen, Christmas just passed. If you didn't get a Christmas gift, somebody didn't know what to get you, send them a cute little text message and say, hey, send them the Amazon link and say, you didn't know what to get me, here you go. This is it. You need this, okay? So I'm not going to keep beating that dead horse, but this is it. That's a book that you need. Clearly, I like to read because you see my my bookshelf behind me. But on top of reading that book, I'll just give you my background. So by day, and by day I mean my regular 9 to 5 job, I spend as a copyright data analyst. So that is a very nicely worded title for a researcher. That's what I do. So I research uh, material. Well, no. So I research information such as ISRC codes, writer shares, publisher shares, registrations with Harry Fox Agency, ISWC codes, all of these different things that I'm mentioning to you now. Don't freak out. The music industry loves to use acronyms, which I will happily explain throughout this video. So don't worry about what an ISRC code is right now. We'll get to that. So with that being said, that's what I do by day. I wear many other different hats. I've been an artist manager for the last 4 years. I've also worked in booking, and then I started my own company, which is an artist development incubator called Prospective Media Management. And essentially, what I did there is I just saw a need right out of college of artists who I was around. I started off myself as a songwriter and an artist, quickly realized that that was not the life that I wanted, that I like being in the background. Somebody's got to do the boring stuff in the background, and that's me. And so that's kind of where I shifted, but I wanted to make sure that I can help my friends who are talented artists make sure that all of their business affairs are in order. So that's what I do in terms of education. I got a Bachelor of Science degree from Middle Tennessee State University, go Blue Raiders, and music business with a minor in marketing. And then last year, I received a Master of Arts degree from Berklee College of Music in Global Entertainment and Music Business. So now that you have my credentials, and hopefully you're confident that I'm not like some weird quack that just wanted to bring you a video and doesn't know what I'm talking about, let's just dive right into this course. Let's go. Music Biz Crash Course with Kim Ortiz. Now, I know it can seem intimidating being an artist and trying to manage your own business, but it's important that you have just a general knowledge, at least, of where your money comes from. And that's going to start with understanding the data. Now, if at any point you feel like your brain is going to explode, take a quick break, and then we'll jump right back into it. So today we're going to cover 3 topics as it relates to the data and how you can apply this to your future releases. So, as an introduction, we're going to break down the difference between a song and a track. So, this is what I like to think of as publishing 101, and it's also the first step in understanding royalties and where your revenue comes from. So, songs have their own revenue stream, and recordings earn their own revenue stream. So, you're probably thinking, well, what's the difference? Well, let's find out. So a song, which is also referred to as a composition or underlying work, is the non-recorded version of the music. So, for example, think of a song that you wrote, but you haven't recorded it yet. Or another example could be a song that you wrote that another artist recorded. So you did not record the song at all, you just simply wrote it. So that is what we in the publishing world or the music world refer to as a song or a composition. Another thing is that a song can have a different rights holder than a recording. So a rights holder is just another fancy word for who owns the copyright or who owns the song. So typically songs are owned by the songwriter and the publisher, whereas the recording is usually owned by the record label. So we'll get into what a recording is in just a second. But just to make sure you understand, again, what a song is, think about your favorite Christmas music. That's the best example I can give, because so many artists re-record old Christmas songs that have either fallen into public domain or they will make a cover of it. So underlying composition could be, I'll give you an example of a song that's in public domain, which is Silent Night. So Silent Night was composed many, many years ago, and we've heard how many different renditions of Silent Night. So the composition, which is the song that was composed back in the early 1800s or so, will have its own revenue. Whereas the recording, let's say Chris Brown recorded a version of Silent Night, that has its own revenue as well. So Chris Brown won't get the songwriting revenue, but he'll get the recording revenue. So I hope that makes sense in terms of being able to distinguish what a song is. Now moving on to a track. So a track is also referred to as a master or a sound recording. So I told you that we in the music industry love to use acronyms and we love to use synonyms, but they all pretty much mean the same thing. So if you ever hear the term track, sound recording, master, or simply recording, it is all referring to the recorded version of the composition. Okay? And so masters are typically owned by record labels. There are some instances where the masters are owned by whoever financed the sessions, the recording sessions. Or if you sign to a production company and you're locked into what's known as a production deal, then some of those contracts do stipulate that the masters will be owned by that production company for a period of time. And then when that period is up, normally there's an option period, which we'll get into that when we get into our topic of contracts. But in some instances, either those masters will be, artists will have an opportunity to either get those masters back by purchasing them in most cases. By now, you're probably out of breath trying to keep up, but you're doing great. Now we're going to move on and actually discuss metadata. So there are 3 major digital distributions that you see listed here, and I've been talking about them all throughout this video. We've discussed them, and that's DistroKid, TuneCore, and CD Baby. I didn't list AWOL here on purpose because AWOL is a UK based company that is associated with Cobalt, and the UK, they have different societies and different organizations that they report to. So we're going to start by learning what to look for and why these codes are important. And so as you can see, there's 3 codes listed there. The ISRC code, the UPC code, and the ISWC code. We'll start by breaking down what the ISRC code is. So at the very beginning of the introduction, we talked about you needing to have unique identifying numbers in place for your release so that companies who are responsible for paying out royalties are confident and are sure that they are paying those royalties to the correct person or to the rights holder. And so that starts by having an ISRC code. Well, what is that? What does it do? So the ISRC code is a digital footprint that gets attached to the sound recording. Okay, and it's used to track and download sales and streams by streaming platforms. And this code is recognized worldwide, and it's only attached to one sound recording. So there are some instances where we've seen more than one. Well, I have seen more than one ISRC code attached, but that should not happen. Each sound recording should only have one ISRC code unless there's a remix. So if there's another remix of it, then it'll have another ISRC code, or the music video recording will have a separate ISRC code. So if I released a track called Booty Work, don't ask me why I came up with Booty Work. That is the first thing that popped in my head. So don't judge me. But if I released a track called Booty Work, that track will have its own ISRC number. But then if I went back and released Booty Work featuring Yo Yo Ma or whoever, then that remix will have a different ISRC code. So that's the only reason that there should be more than one code attached to a song that has the same title that's released by the same artist, as if it's a remix or it's the music video version of the recording. So when you're uploading music, either directly to Spotify or if you're going through a digital distributor, like the ones that we mentioned, they will normally have an option that says, I need an ISRC code, or would you like us to provide an ISRC code for you? The answer should always be yes. Digital stores will not release your music without you having an ISRC code. So that's another thing to be aware of. And if you don't have this code, then it makes it really difficult for the platforms like Spotify or Apple Music or whoever. It makes it difficult for them to know who to pay. You want a UPC code that's going to represent the entire body. So let's say you want to try to get on Billboard's Hot 100 or Billboard's Hot 200. Well, the UPC code is going to be important to track your full album sales, because Nielsen is not going to worry about trying to track your individual tracks that you released on this album. They're worried about how many album sales did you have the first week, and you're going to need a UPC for that, and that's what gets reported to Billboard. So I would highly suggest making sure that you opt in for a UPC code. Most of the digital distributors that you go through will automatically offer you a UPC code, and it will be included in the price. There are some digital distributors that will make you pay an additional amount for them to issue you a UPC code. I would say it is worth the additional amount, so my suggestion is to opt in for it and to get a UPC code along with the ISRC code. This is the artist that I work with, and this is a screenshot that shows the UPC number or the UPC code. And then as you can see, this was a full album, but the UPC code represents the full project. And then you see that each individual track has its own ISRC number. So that's what it should look like right before you're about to upload. So last thing in terms of codes that we're going to talk about is the ISWC code. So just like the ISRC code, this is a unique and permanent identifying system, and it is also internationally recognized. So that's just helpful if your song is played in Ghana or Cape Town or Amsterdam, that you are still getting credit for those streams or those spins if it's on a radio, any type of internet radio, to make sure that you still get credit for it, either as a songwriter or as the recording artist. So that's why it's good that it's internationally recognized. But the ISWC International Standard Work Code, that refers to the composition. So that goes back to our very basic understanding of song versus track. So as you can see now, each of those have their own revenue systems and they have their own data attached so that we know to keep those revenue systems or revenue streams separate. The way to remember it: ISRC, International Standard Recording Code. Recording, sound recording master, that's its own thing. ISWC, International Standard Work Code. Work as in underlying work, as in composition. So that refers to the song. And performance rights societies issue you this code once you have uploaded the composition and registered it to your respective performing rights society. You can get an ISWC code directly from the ISWC agency, which in the United States is ASCAP, but once you upload it, or excuse me, once you register the song with your respective performing rights society, then typically they will take care of that for you. And the reason why this code is so important for compositions is because this is the code that gives us songwriter and publisher information. So it tells us songwriter splits, publisher splits, meaning what is the percentage of revenue that is supposed to go to the publisher and what is the percentage of revenue that is supposed to go to the songwriter. Those are the top 3 codes that are important for, I would say, every artist, whether you're signed or unsigned, every songwriter, whether you are signed to a major publisher or not. Those are 3 codes that you need, and it's very simple to track whether you have those codes or not. So another question that I've gotten lately is, well, what happens to all the money that wasn't paid out to songwriters or recording artists because Spotify didn't know who to pay? Well, it goes into what we in the industry like to refer to as a black box. And you're like, what the heck is a black box? But it's essentially just an account with unclaimed money. So you do not want your money falling into that black box, because I guarantee you will not see it ever again. So now that we've talked about that and you know now how to go about not having your money fall into that black hole or the black box, we're going to quickly go over data as it pertains to composers. We just finished talking about data of the works. So this is very simple. CAE and IPI are the same thing. Basically, IPI stands for Interested Parties Information, and it's just a uniquely identifying number that gets attached to the actual songwriter this time, and the CAE number is typically attached to a publisher, but it shows they're a composer, author, or publisher. That's why those words are synonymous for each other. They mean the same thing, but it's a number that distinguishes Kimberly Renee Smith from Kimberly Smith or Kimberly Jones Smith. Or if there's another person named Kimberly Renee Smith, it's a number that distinguishes who you are and what your works are so that you are the correct person receiving the correct royalties. I have some screenshots that I'm going to show you later, so we'll be able to see what that is going to look like essentially. But now we're going to move into registrations because I know that I've been mentioning that a lot. So registrations, that's primarily with your performing rights society. So this is what I would say will be the last step and in completing a successful release of your next single, of your next EP, or your next album. So at the very beginning, just to do a quick recap, we talked about the difference between a song versus a track, the revenue streams of each, who is responsible for paying you each of those royalties. We just finished talking about how to make sure that you have the ISRC code, the UPC code, and the ISWC code attached. So this is it. This is the last step. And that is registering your song with your PRO. Now, I'm not going to recommend which PRO you should go to, or which one is better or worse than the other, because I don't really have an opinion on that. I think that you should do your due diligence and find out what works best for you in terms of who you affiliate with. CSAC is the only performing rights society that you have to be invited to. Now, I will say and suggest that you whichever one you decide to affiliate yourself with, I would go in and register as a songwriter and as a publisher, and it will tell you pretty much how much each organization costs to do so. But it's very much so worth it as an independent unsigned artist, because if you don't have a major publishing deal, then that's just unclaimed publisher share that you're not earning, that you could be earning because you don't have a major publishing deal. So I would just suggest come up with a unique or creative name and sign up as a publishing company so that you can at least get those royalties until you can sign with a major publisher. And even then, you'll have the leverage, hopefully, to say, well, let's do a co-publishing deal, because I still want to get I still want to receive some of my publishing royalty. So that's going to be my suggestion. Now, when you're going to sign up, this is the back end of ASCAP. Again, the artist I work with has agreed to let me use him as an example. So this is the page that you'll come to if you were to sign up with ASCAP. This is what you'll come to when you're wanting to register a work. Now you'll notice underneath that gray bar to the left, underneath ASCAP, you see a number. That number is the IPI or the CAE number that is affiliated with his publishing entity. So this is the back end if you're registering your work on behalf of the publishing entity. So where it says work title, that's where you would enter in the name of the song. Now, sometimes songs can change once they get released, so that's why they have an alternate title there for you. So, for example, let's say you wrote a song called 100 Grand, and when you wrote it, it was 100 spelled out numerically. So 100 grand. By the time that it goes into production and it's been recorded, mixed, and mastered, and now it's on the album, maybe the recording artist or the label decided to spell it out as in terms of spelling it using letters. So now it's 100 grand. Then you can use 100 for the work title. You always want to put whatever the final release title was, so it will be spelled out 100 grand. But as an alternate title, you can put in 100 grand numerically. And then also if it's featuring any artist, so if it's 100 grand featuring Rick Ross, then you will put that as an alternate title as well, 100 grand featuring Rick Ross. So that way, any type of variation of the track name, you've registered it so that you're easily so that your music is easily accessible if someone is coming in trying to figure out who the songwriter or the publisher is for that particular song. So moving down, you'll notice that writer share, the maximum can be 50%. The publisher share, the maximum can be 50%. So this is for a few reasons. Mainly is because we're working out of 100%. So the total of share that a PRO will be responsible for paying will be 100%. And so if you are the only songwriter and you have registered with your own publishing entity, then underneath where it says writer, you will enter your name. Under role, you will enter that you're a composer and author. If you wrote the music and you wrote the lyrics. And then under share, you will put 50%, which means you are the only songwriter and composer for that song. Under publisher, you will put the name of your publishing entity. So if I'm going to keep the Kimberly Smith situation, then maybe I would do K Smith Publishing. And then maybe that's my publisher name. So I would type in K Smith Publishing. Under territory, you're going to leave that as world. There's never a reason that you need to change that if you are not signed to a major publisher. If you are signed to a major publisher, then that territory may change. But if you're an indie artist and you have your own publishing entity, then leave it at the world. And under share, you will put 50%. So that's going to total 100%. And that's what it should be, 100%. Now, if you collaborated on a song and you are not the only songwriter, then I would highly suggest that you all have a conversation ahead of time on how that pie is going to be split, so that you know, which is why it's important to go into a studio with split sheets so that there's no discrepancies on the back end. But you would just basically want to list all of the songwriters who collaborated with you on that song. And then also in terms of publisher, if you don't know their publisher, don't worry about it. Just make sure you've listed your publishing entity. Okay. So now we're just going to talk about just some do's and don'ts and some best practices. Just again, so you guys can be very thorough in making sure that all the information is complete. So here are 2 screenshots that I've taken from BMI. Now, anybody can access BMI's website and search their repertoire. Same with ASCAP, CSEC, and GMR. You don't have to have a special login or a membership to do so. So you can search any songwriter. You can search their catalog. So we're just going to use Michael Jackson because I know that he's affiliated with BMI. So we're going to start by searching him through a songwriter. So you'll notice here why I say spell check your name or make sure that it's correct. Because when I typed in Michael Joseph Jackson, the only hit that I got was the one highlighted in at the top. So you see that nothing popped up underneath. Normally, if there's a catalog associated with that writer, like you see below, it'll show all of the names of the songs, and then it'll also show his IPI number. So there's no songs popped up underneath this name. So I had to go back and search under title. I had to search Beat It. And then when I searched I had to search Bad. And when I searched Bad, then it showed me, as you can see here, that Michael Joe Jackson was the composer. And so that lets me know that whoever registered the majority of his catalog with BMI registered him under Michael Joe Jackson and not Michael Joseph Jackson. So that's the difference between getting royalties or your money falling into the black box. Something as simple as your middle name being spelled fully out as Joseph or being shortened to Joe. So that's important. And it's spelled backwards for a reason. It just goes last name, first name, and then middle name. Now you'll see here when we've been talking about ISWC codes, you'll notice underneath the title detail that there's a code that starts with the T. That's the ISWC code that BMI has attached to that particular song. So that's where we'll stop this video. Thank y'all so much for watching. I really hope that you went from being hella confused to feeling a little more confident about the metadata and understanding like what you should be on the lookout for when you're releasing a new track. Please like, comment, subscribe, share this. So thanks so much for stopping by my channel. Thanks for watching and take care.